Mr. President, dear colleagues, I stand before you as lives continue falling apart in the Gaza Strip, torn apart in the most brutal and devastating ways. I stand before you as more than 35,000 Palestinians have been killed, 80,000 have been maimed, 2 million have been displaced, and everything has been destroyed. No words can capture what such loss and trauma signifies for Palestinians, their families, communities, and for our nation as a whole. As Palestinians in Gaza have been pushed to the very edge of the Strip, to the very brink of life, and in the ever-narrowing space they are besieged in, bombs and bullets continue hunting them down. I stand before you as famine is settling in, by design and by the decision of the Israeli government, killing the most vulnerable among our people, children and women. Israel closed the crossings instead of opening them, including the Rafah crossing, seizing by force the Palestinian crossings point of Rafah. Humanitarian convoys were attacked with its blessing, and the UNRWA headquarters was assaulted with its complicity. At the time where the world was calling to flood Gaza with humanitarian aid and calling for a ceasefire, Israel imposed a drought. Its plan has not changed: destroy and displace. I stand before you as every inch of Gaza has witnessed massacres, as mass graves continue to be uncovered where hospitals used to stand, as the world is barely starting to grasp the cruel and extensive nature of the actions committed against the Palestinian people. I stand before you as the Israeli Prime Minister is ready to kill thousands more to ensure his political survival, as he openly declares the Palestinian state is an existential threat, and together with his co-conspirators continues, 76 years after the Nakba, to try and finish the job. Israel's war is against the Palestinian people as a whole. Its occupation forces and settlers kill daily in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Its bulldozers displace Palestinian communities and demolish Palestinian homes everywhere. I have heard many praise the resilience of the Palestinian people, and we are resilient. But no nation, no family, no person should have to endure such suffering for so long. Such injustice, from birth to premature death, one generation after the other. No parents should know such fear, such powerlessness. No children should have to suffer in their flesh what Palestinian children are experiencing. As we speak, 1.4 million Palestinians in Rafah wonder if they will survive today and wonder where to go next. There is nowhere left to go. Mr. President, I have stood hundreds of times before at this podium often in tragic circumstances, but none comparable to the ones my people endure today. I have stood hundreds of times before at this podium, but never for a more significant vote than the one about to take place, a historic one. We faced and continue to face attempts to push us out of geography and out of history, but by forcible displacement, subjugation, or death, or to say it in even clearer terms, by ethnic cleansing, apartheid, or genocide. Against all odds, we survived. Our flag flies high and proud in Palestine and across the globe and on the campus of Columbia University. It has become a symbol raised by all those who believe in freedom and is just rule, by all those who can no longer stand idly by in the face of such utter injustice. It is true that we will not disappear, but the lives lost cannot be restored. The marks, visible and invisible, left by this horrific assault that has yet to end on bodies and souls, on families and communities, on each single Palestinian in the Gaza Strip, can never be truly conveyed. We did not write the UN Charter. We did not enact international law. We just demanded to see them applied to us, and have been until now denied their protection. As the campaign to displace and destroy the Palestinian people reaches its ultimate levels, you can decide to stand by the right of a nation to live in freedom and dignity on its ancestral land, to stand with peace, which requires the recognition of our rights, not their continued denial. Or you can stand on the sidelines of history, or worst, obstruct its natural path forward. Mr. President, I have sat in these halls next to liberation movements who, one by one, finally took their rightful place in this august chamber, and again, without a doubt, the day will come where Palestine will take its rightful place among the community of free nations. Occupation and colonialism and death and destructions are not our fate. They are imposed on us, but freedom is our sole destiny. We share with many nations represented in this hall the suffering they endured, the struggles they led, the dreams they had. You have been witnesses to the story of Palestine, and you can only look at it from the prism of your own people's journeys towards liberation. Liberation so life can prevail. Liberation so peace can prevail. We want peace. We want freedom. There is no word harder to pronounce when tens of thousands of your people have been killed. We do not use it lightly. We want peace. Our freedom is not an obstacle to peace. It is the only path leading to it. If you do not support our freedom, you do not support peace. Our right to self-determination, to independent statehood, to membership of these United Nations cannot be subject to an Israeli veto. They are not up for negotiations. They are our inherent rights as Palestinians. Israel is clear that it wants to destroy Palestinian statehood. What does it mean to be for the two-state solution if you allow for the destruction of the Palestinian state? Mr. President, dear colleagues, dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, Palestine has been for generations of your compatriots the ultimate test for humanity's ability to live up to its promises. And it is once again, for this generation, the ultimate measure of the quest for justice. Its name was embraced by your founding fathers and your greatest leaders and by our peoples. It is an integral part of the legacy of your ancestors and of the engagement of your younger generations. People from all creeds and faiths and race and age, in the biggest cities and in the most remote villages, are mobilizing for Palestine, mobilizing for a ceasefire, for an end of the occupation, for freedom and justice, and for peace. Mr. President, the UN Charter was often invoked during our negotiations, and we will always abide by the Charter, including when the processes it forces and limitations it imposes are to our detriment, and including after having been confined in an observer status for 50 years now. We wish from all those who invoked the Charter to abide by the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination guaranteed by the Charter, to confront the acquisition of Palestinian territory by force, denounced by the Charter, to preserve future Palestinian generations from the scourge of occupation and war as foreseen by the Charter. A yes vote is a vote for Palestinian existence. It is not against any state, but it is against the attempts to deprive us of our state. That is why the Israeli government is so opposed to it, because they oppose our independence and the two-state solution altogether. It is an investment in peace and thus empowers the forces of peace. How can anyone explain that Israel was admitted to the United Nations 75 years ago on the power of a resolution that foresaw two states, and without awaiting an end of the conflict, and while continuing to deny our rights and our existence, and that the state of Palestine, 75 years later, is still required to wait and remains met by a closed door preventing it from being admitted to this organization. Your vote today, of course, says a lot about your solidarity with Palestine, but also about who you are and what you stand for. It matters, and I know an overwhelming majority of you will stand again with the Palestinian people in their hour of need, and you will stand for just and lasting peace for the benefit of all. In simple words, voting yes is the right thing to do. And I can assure you, you and your country for years to come will be proud to have stood for freedom, justice, and peace in this darkest hour. As everyone is saying, free Palestine, and peace for all. And I repeat, free Palestine and vote yes for the resolution, and I thank you so much.